everyone, this is Haydenly Poor, and today I'm going to do something I've never done before. This video is going to take us outside the state of California and outside the United States. We are going to be discussing the Panama Canal. Since I've never visited this place before, all the information I learned from the canal was from reading a book by David McCullough on the Panama Canal, called The Path Between the Seas, and then interviewing friends John and Gail List, who have been to Panama. Here are some ideas I have about how you can go about learning about the places. Reading books, interviewing people who have visited them, and even visiting them yourself if you get the opportunity. Now back to the Panama Canal. It was originally started by the French in 1870 by Ferdinand de Lesseps after the successful completion of the Suez Canal. Because of that success, the French had high hopes for this one and decided to build a sea-level canal, an overly ambitious project because it dealt with mountains to cut across. The Compagnie Universelle du Canal Interoceanique was an ambitious endeavor, and despite the many reports of how costly it would be, both monetary and to the workers working there, people were overwhelmingly in support of it. To start the company, the grand sum with the stock people purchased came to 32,200,000 francs, French dollars, which is 6,400,000 in US dollars. Unfortunately, many things came against the French. Unfavorable weather with a hot and humid climate year-round and heavy rains in the fall, since it is near the equator. High mudslide risk, which translated to mudslides several times. The jungle with swamps rich in mosquitoes, which gave malaria and yellow fever to many, and the slow process of building the canal. As a result, the company struggled and ended up succumbing to its problems and was forced to liquidate in 1889. The canal ended up rocking France to its foundations and became a sore subject for its creators. Interestingly, when the world was about to surrender to the fact that this couldn't be done, the United States stepped in with its plans to build a canal. But they weren't about to repeat the failure in Panama, so they decided to build the canal in Nicaragua, since the land is easier to build on and there is a natural lake in the middle called Lago Cochabamba, which would complete 30% of their 170-mile path. But the auction house called Panama with its operations was a pretty appealing option, too appealing for the United States to miss. It set the stage for the debate at Congress, with the Nicaragua Canal idea winning in most people who had common sense, until the last second when compelling arguments were made about Panama with its much shorter distance and much of the project already done by the French. French engineer Philippe Jean Benoit Varia was the main influencer of this decision, who worked on the French version of this project and who wrote 2 books on the project after it failed, and was a major investor in the new Compagnie Nouvelle du Canal de Panama, formed after the liquidation of the Compagnie Universelle. He was the major player in influencing the people of Panama to revolt against Colombia, who controlled the country to form the country of Panama. The Panama Canal ended up winning the vote in Congress with a more realistic vision of the project, using locks and dams to divert the water into the canal section, and a more realistic cut through the divide instead of digging at sea level as the French envisioned. The locks starting from the Pacific are seen at Pedro Miguel through the Celebra Cut across the Continental Divide to lift ships 85 feet above sea level to the Gatun Lake, which the Gatun Dam holds with its locks, leading to the Atlantic Ocean. It is 51 miles long. It starts in Panama City and ends in Cologne. It was built during the presidencies of Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, and Woodrow Wilson during the years 1904 to 1914. Interestingly, on the day it opened, the news was dampened by the outbreak of World War I. The project was completed for $350 million, the most expensive project in US history to that point. It led to 25,000 fatalities, many of which were during the French years, and from malaria and yellow fever. Interestingly, the jungle was such a menace with snakes that the area within 100 feet of the canal was cleared of vegetation to protect the workers. It takes 8 to 10 hours to cross. 52 million gallons of water are used during each transit of ships. An interesting thing I learned while interviewing a friend of mine who recently visited the Panama Canal was that the canal doesn't use the lake water for the canal water because it would drain the lake if it did. But instead, the water is pumped from the Atlantic port at Cologne to operate the Panama Canal. To least disturb the area, the water goes back down to the Atlantic before it reaches the lake. The Panama Canal has become the road to the Eastern world, which is interestingly partly why North America was discovered, and why the United States was founded, in search of a faster passage to Asia for its spices and riches, and that the United States ended up building that road for Asian goods to be delivered to Europe and the East Coast, and for European and East Coast US goods to be delivered to Asia and the Western United States. I believe it to be an interesting way history progressed. Interestingly, the canal crosses another major route, the Pan American Highway, which is the only highway to access South America from North America. Since the canal is the main passage between the West and the East, it receives a lot of traffic, with 12,000 to 15,000 ships using it a year. And the original canal can only fit one ship at a time. As a result, there can be great congestion on the route, which led to the construction of the expansion project in 2007, which was completed in 2016 with the ability to fit 2 ships at a time. There were also plans for a Nicaragua canal again in 2014, which Nicaragua officially canceled last month in May of 2024. And Mexico has recently built its own interoceanic canal through the Isthmus at Tehuantepec, even though it currently is a railway and not a canal. These are some of the things I found interesting from learning about the Panama Canal, and I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Please like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and comment below. Thank you for watching.